Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. We have a really cool shell today. This is a vintage Peters 16 gauge, 2 3/4 inch. This is in a paper hull and it's a 1 1/8 ounce load of number 8 shot. These were given to me by a friend of my brother's. His name is Isaac and his friend's name is Hayden, but anyway, yeah, these are a paper hull, really old Peters, and they do have a fold crimp on them. I believe these are from the 1960s, but they are done up with smokeless powder, and this is an actual brass head on it. The maroon color kind of reminds me of Federal. But if you guys didn't know, Peters used to be a really big ammo company. They were bought by, I believe, Remington or UMC way back in the day. Peters does still exist, and Remington does still put out ammo under the Peters line, namely some steel shot and some paper hull 12 gauge target loads. These do have the small number 57 style primer. I don't think these are number 57s, but they are the same size. The head stamp says Peters Victor 16, and these are made in the USA, as you can see right there center screen. The design on the brass does look really cool to me. You don't see that with modern shells anymore, and now some shells out of Italy you do. The Fiocchi still makes paper hulls. We can't get them here, but some of them do still have designs like that on the brass, which I think is awesome, and I wish we could get those here, but sadly we just can't for whatever reason. But I don't have the box to show you guys. Maybe I can find a picture of it on the internet, and if I can, I'll throw a picture of it up here, because I am curious as to what the old box looks like. So I found something that's at least pretty close to it. This is the 2 9/16 inch version. Couldn't find any 2 3/4, but this appears to be the exact same shell I have, going off the design right here, but yeah, no 2 3/4, couldn't find them. But I guess without further ado, let's crack this open and see what's in it. Alright, so inside this vintage Peters paper 16 gauge shell, we have 1.091 ounces of 7.5 shots. Some of it is oxidized, but most of it is still shiny and round. Not quite a full advertised 1 1/8 ounces, but let's be honest, it almost never is with factory shells. But let's have a better look at the shot, shall we? Alright, and here we go. You can see some of it is oxidized, but for the most part it does still look okay. This is soft lead shot. I did squish one, no effort at all. So yeah, this is what's called chilled shot. It is not hardened with antimony or anything else like that. This looks like it's a lot more than 1 1/8 ounce, but it's not. It's actually slightly less. And it is 7.5 shot though. So you do get more pellets than say number 6 or 4. But I mean, overall it still looks okay for being about 60, maybe even more years old. And for a charge, we have about 22.5 of this stuff right here. Obviously this is an older powder. I don't recall seeing anything like this in a modern shell. It looks like it was a cylinder, like one strip and then chopped up into tiny little bits. But guys, that powder looks as fresh as the day it was made. Here's a better view of it. And if I didn't mention this, yes, it is a ball powder. Not spherical, but definitely a ball powder. Looks pretty nice. No age at all to it. Again, it looks as fresh as the day it was made. You can't really complain about that. Oh, by the way, me and Josh did test fire one of these last year, and it went off just fine. Now, this being an older shell, of course, no plastic of any kind in this. And guys, this is about the simplest shell I've ever opened up. There's not even one of them little plastic wraps in it that Winchester did in the 90s and 80s. No, this is just a literal nitro card over the powder. That is our gas seal. It's not a cup either. Just a straight nitro card. And then we have some sort of fiber cushion wad. Although it being about 60 years old is now hard as a rock. There is absolutely no cushion to this at all. And it kind of looks like some kind of animal hair, and it is waxed. You can see the outside is a little bit darker and has some sort of sheen to it, whereas the center is just obviously fiber. The bottom is the same. That hole in it is where I pulled it out with a screw. But I mean, overall, nothing at all unexpected here. Again, this is just about the simplest shell I've ever took apart. Just a nitro card and fiber wad, and that's it. Then we have our lead and crimp. And as for the hull itself, of course, we have a paper base wad, and it's relatively tall too. You can see we do have a cup shape to it, or a bowl. The primer is pretty far below the top of the base wad, around the side of the hulls. Yeah, that's pretty tall, but you would expect that with a shell this dang old. That looks really cool to me. I do really appreciate these older paper shells. Wish I had more of them, but guys, I'm kind of running out of the vintage stuff to do breakdowns on. But like I was saying, I really appreciate these older shells that were done so simple without any plastic in it. It takes me back to a time gone by. Of course, I wasn't around for that, but still, I really like the older shells like this. Again, we just have powder, nitro card, fiber wad, shot, crimp. That's it. Extremely simple. And here it is, put back together. The top of the shell, yeah, it's a little bit frayed, but I knew that was going to happen before I opened it up. Usually whenever I do these paper hulls, the top of the shell looks a little bit worse for wear, but still, that is a really nice crimp on it. I just pinched the crimp in with my fingers and hit it with a Guyot BN2. And you can see some of the paper on top of the shell. Oh well. But I mean, overall, it went back together just fine. You can't really complain about that. I didn't rip it up or nothing like that, or destroy the paper anywhere. Looks pretty good to me. But guys, there is a breakdown on a vintage Peters paper hull, 16 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 1 1/8 ounce, number 8 shot. This would have been a great dove load back in the day, or quail, maybe rabbit at close range, squirrel. Yep, I really like these vintage shells. But I hope you enjoyed this one. That's going to end it here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.